What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, man. Today we're gonna make some major progress on the EF sedan. If you guys have seen the previous video, we finished the vinyl wrap on the car with doing the roof, and the last thing we need to do as far as the entire body goes is to do all the trims and the bumper in fresh black. We're not going to be doing any painting in today's video. We got a much bigger task we need to get done and out of the way, and that is installing all of the S1 all-wheel drive rear end components. If you guys been on the channel long enough, you guys know we've used a couple of different all-wheel drive parts from S1, and my red all-wheel drive CRX that I sold last year was using the Delta 7 rear differential mount kit. The H2B CRX sitting right here on the driveway is using also the Delta 7 rear differential mount kit along with the S1 Alpha 6 trailing arm, which is designed out of stainless steel and is fitted for a much wider tire and wheel combo. My EF sedan on the driveway is using the S1 OEM 5-lug conversion rear trailing arm, and we're going to be using their new rear differential mount kit, which I'm going to show you guys right now, along with the S1 billet forks, which are these guys right here, right, with the cups to match my rear shocks. And this time around I am using the S1 wagon equal length rear axles. This right here has been proven to handle 1,000+ horsepower, and I needed axles, so I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna run everything S1, I may as well run everything S1. So let's go ahead and dive into this big box and show you guys the new S1 product that we're gonna be using on the EF sedan. And remember guys, cut away from yourself, not toward yourself. This product is already on their website, but it's only available for other make and models like the EKs, the EG, the DCs, and they finally decided they wanted to make it for the EF chassis. I'm very fortunate to be one of the first to showcase this new product, and based off the pictures, man, this thing is pretty sick. As always, S1 with the superb packaging. We have a bunch of S1 stickers right here, with small ones. We also have this giant one, which I actually been waiting for. So this right here is the square tubing that needs to be shortened down, fitted up, and welded into the frame rail to hold up the differential. And part of this, we do have the plate that goes on as well to give it more welding surface right here, right? In part of the square tubing, we have this plate right here that needs to be adjusted accordingly and then needs to be welded onto the square tubing. This right here actually holds up the differential with these two holes right there. We do have hardware right here. The last piece in the box right here is the new product that S1 is coming out with for the EF chassis, and I'm actually pretty excited because it looks really good. But anyways, are you guys ready for it? This right here is the new EF specific all-wheel drive rear differential mount in full billet. This thing looks freaking incredible, dude. Damn. This thing right here, thick boy. Look at that. What a beauty. The plate looks to be removable as well. This right here, it got 4 Allen bolts on there. The back mount to the rear differential is still stainless steel, so that's nice and durable as well. And dude, I can't wait to get this onto the car. This right here kind of actually made me rethink about my exhaust system, because if you guys know, the EF and DA guys, our exhaust system comes out the driver's side, which then starts over the passenger, goes across, and then out the driver. Now, because I'm going to be running this billet unit, I kind of don't want to block it. So that means I might have to change the routing on my exhaust system just so that this is nice and exposed underneath the car. So this right here, guys, is what we're going to be installing today. S1 billet rear differential mount kit for the EF chassis. And I'm going to go ahead and get the car jacked up, take the wheels off, and start doing our measurements, some cleaning, some welding, some priming, in hopes of by the end of this video, the back end of the car is going to have a differential. Just going to go ahead and wrap this across. All right. Before we get started, I do need to take off the exhaust system because this is probably the last time I'm going to use it. This is configured for front wheel drive, and it's not going to obviously fit with drive shaft and stuff being in the way. Dude, it smells so bad. So I just got off the phone with Son from S1, and I was trying to figure out where all the spacers belong. So when I opened this kit up, there was 6 of them. 4 came out of the bag with the diff, and then 2 is in this little bubble wrap. These are medium size, this is the longer size, and then these are the tapered ones. So the tapered one goes on top of the diff mount, right? This is the bottom, this is the top, and this is supposed to offset the wave that's on the subframe. These longer ones go to the bottom to space out the bottom diff, because normally the Delta 7, the stainless steel rear diff mount kit, the spacer is actually welded on to the diff mount, where the billet is an external spacer. So long one goes on the bottom, taper goes on top, and then these 2 medium ones right here is a preference. This is usually for the top of the differential right here. It goes underneath the diff mount, right? And then the diff goes on the bottom of the spacer. Reason for that is sometimes depending on the chassis, and I've actually dealt with this before, this plate might be a little too short, right? So on this car, I remember doing it, the plate hung off the rails just a little bit like that, and it's not a big deal. I mean, if you clean the bottom side and you weld all 4 corners, it's just as strong. But personal preference to some, the spacer goes in between the mount and the diff, which then pushes the bar up higher, so you can weld all 4 corners perfectly, right? So those spacers is a personal preference. If it bothers you to weld the bottom side, you can always space it to bring up the plate higher to weld it all around. Or if you don't want to run the spacer, you can always just butt it up, mount to diff, and then just weld the plate however it matches the frame rail. So we'll figure it out as we go, because it may differ from the CRX to the sedan. But I also talked to him about how much of this you have to cut for the ear tabs for the differential, and he said normally they cut where it goes from edge to edge. So the seam seal right here is sealing up this piece that is spot welded to the subframe. So they normally cut from here to the other side, make it even all the way across, trim the top as high as you need it for clearance to the ears to the diff. So I don't know if I just want to go all the way to the top, like an inch off the top here, or three-quarter, but I guess we'll figure it out as we go. Okay, got my mark. In case you guys were concerned, any holes that are cut to the chassis that has anything running through it is always protected by a hose cut in half. This goes for the shift cables and my fuel lines. So we have the mark outs right here, 1.5 inch going up, and we are marked to the end of the hole, so that way we can have some meat to weld instead of having to grind off the seam sealer. Both sides, right? So let's go ahead and chop this out. With the car being this high off the floor, cutting this was a lot easier than the last couple of times I've done it. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to grind off all of the undercoating, about 1/4 inch, so we can have some fresh metal to weld onto when we plate this back in. But I'm not going to do that right now because I want to put the differential and everything up and get it all done and out of the way first, so that way I'll know if I need to cut this more or not and then once everything is in place, we'll box it in with some flat stock. I want to give you guys a heads up. If you're buying the all-wheel drive Billet diff mount, it does come with its own Allen key hardware. The diff mount showed up first before the hardware, and S1 was getting this out to me ASAP, so I received the diff mount first before the hardware. But shout out to my Lynn because she shipped it out today, and that should be on the way in a couple of days. But for right now, I am going to use these longer 14mm bolts, probably the hardware that belongs to the K series water pump housing. All right, we are flush mounted, and backside, plenty of clearance. So the next thing here is to get the differential up. We're going to be using a Civic wagon rear diff, which I pulled out of my all-wheel drive red CRX, and we got to figure out how much do we have to knock in the tub, because I really don't want to cut it. I can get away with knocking it in right here because the differential, the pumpkin, is going to hit somewhere there. The fuel cell itself actually sits all the way on this side, because you can tell by the mounting point, this is about 2 inches off the tank. So that means the tank starts somewhere right here, and we have plenty of clearance in the tub to modify for the differential that sits, I don't know, or somewhere there. So to find my diff and clean it up, got the rear diff on my jack because this thing is freaking heavy. S1 does provide the bolts. S1 does provide the bolts that goes from the differential to the diff mount, but I'm gonna use my Honda bolt for right now until we finalize everything, and then we'll switch it over to the stainless hardware. Okay, and I can already tell you that I'm gonna have to bang the frame a lot. If the knocking doesn't work, we'll just cut it. Not a big deal. We're pretty close. So what's actually touching up there right now is the nipple for the breather, the ventilation, and we're literally like less than ½ an inch off. I'm pretty sure that's all the sound deadening breaking off inside the tub. Okay, so you guys can see we're not that far off, and it's actually touching the lip where I was just talking about a minute ago, right here, this lip. So either I'm gonna have to knock it in a lot more or notch it a little bit, but for the most part, we're almost entirely clear with just knocking the tub in. So I'm gonna go ahead and just finesse this a little bit more. So I knocked the tub enough to where I can put the top bolt right here in place. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there is a gap between the tub and the diff and the breather tube on top. Now the diff is not fully secured on the other side, and we still have some play, right? That's good. And honestly, I should have done this first before the diff. I need to mark out this hole to drill it all the way through right there with that spacer, and it's supposed to get secured because I noticed that when I was shimming the diff around, it was kind of kicking the plate out, and the top bolt is supposed to keep the entire diff plate straight and bolted down. So this is the tricky part, because I can't really get the drill between the tub. So this right here needs to be knocked in a little bit, as far as I remember doing it on the other chassis, because if you look, there's really no space. I got the holes drilled through. Show you guys right here on the other side, right there. This side is easier to drill because we have a lot of space on this side. I don't think the trunk is symmetrical, so just know that the driver's side is easier. And there we go. Last night we drilled the holes for the top bolts, and unfortunately with the spacer, the longest 14mm bolts I have, it's not long enough to go all the way through to bolt it down. So I have the jack propping the diff up into place to ensure the plate is not flexing, because we're going to be doing our top bars. Although if there is a little flex, we do have some adjustability with the top bar and mount for the diff, so I'm not too worried about it. This is the plate the diff bolts to, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. So I'm mounting this plate on without the spacer provided because I want to see where the bar lands, and if it sits too low, we'll run the spacers to kick the bar higher so we can fully weld up the plate. I will also say the hole in the tub to clear the differential is also an access port to getting to the 17mm on top of the differential, because if you don't cut the tub and you have the crossbar, it may be a little fight to try to get a tool up here to tighten up the 17mm. I don't think I'll have any issues with spacing on top to put a tool in here to tighten up this 17mm, but right now I'm gonna go ahead and snug it down, and I am gonna try to center up the plate so that way we do have some adjustability. Okay, this bar right here that S1 provides is a little bit longer than the width, so you can trim it to fit. It looks like we're gonna have to knock off almost an inch, but I want to ensure that we're not gonna run short. So lining up the bar to the bottom of the plate to the frame rail and the little square plate that's provided right here that needs to be welded on, we are far clear from the bottom of the rail, right? And that's good. We don't need to run the spacer. Okay, so this bar, I trimmed it down to 31, and then I had to trim off another 1/4 inch, and then shaved it down with the flap disc. And this is not squared, this is actually shaved out at an angle because the frame is slanted. I've already done this about 2 or 3 times, and I'm hoping that it should fit now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these plates on so I can mark out the sides to shave down the bare metal. I'm gonna tap it down with a hammer so it's nice and flush. So I got my diff pulled out. I cleaned up because we're actually taking off to go eat for my mom's birthday. So I'm gonna continue when I get back. So what had happened last night was I was welding with my Everlast welder, and everything was going well, but a couple of point in time I kept having like blowout issues, and I don't know if it's like my argon or contamination of some sort. There wasn't really any wind last night when I was welding this bar up, and it was welding fine, and then it would blow out, you know, all the gray colors and the welds kind of like just building up. And at that point I was like, you know what, I don't want to cause any frustration, so I finished TIG welding the areas that I needed to. And then on the bars on the side to the plate, I ended up switching over to the MIG Max 215 from Harbor Freight on the heat range 7 on the knob because I am on a 110 outlet. The 110, if I run on the heat range 7, running an inch at a time, it will blow out the circuit. So all of these edges, I did 1 pass, blew out the circuit, 1 pass, blew out the circuit, 1 pass, blew out the circuit, so on and so forth. But regardless, we got the bar fully welded up right there, hiding nothing from you guys, right? This one all welded up as well too. And then here's the TIG welded area that I welded. I didn't want to blotch this area up, so I TIG welded it, and I was just running into issues with my argon or something, so got that all welded up. I did attempt to do the inside, but again, I kept having that blowout, so I just gave up on it and went over to the MIGs. All right guys, I've been crawling around under here, got it all welded up, as well as the top right there. This one came out all right. This side came out pretty damn good. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna wire brush all of the welded areas, and I'm gonna primer it on both sides because I don't have any undercoating to do it in this video, so I'm gonna have to go buy some undercoating, and then probably tomorrow or so I'm going to pressure wash the entire bottom end over here, and then I'm going to scrub the hell out of it because this is all dirt, right? And then I'm going to undercoat all of the tub here all the way to the back as well too, so I want that all nice and clean. So I'm gonna go ahead and just clean all my tools up right now because we are done with this all-wheel drive rear diff mount install. What a struggle to weld upside down, but we got it done. Give you guys one more look before we wrap it up. I got this all wired down and primered. I laid it on there pretty damn thick, and got both ends over here primered as well too. And when I was scrubbing this, dude, this is some really thick dirt. So when I do get around to doing the undercoating, I'm gonna scrub this one time really hard, and after the rinse, if there's still dirt on it, I'm just gonna rhino line right over it. But we are done underneath here, guys, and I am super stoked. This is finally done and out of the way. Not gonna lie to you guys, man, doing the all-wheel drive conversion now for the 4th time, it's just as complicated as it was when I did it the first time. Having to do it upside down, ponytail, hair, pushing up against my head gives you a headache. Having to crawl up and down 1,000 times when the welder would shut off or when I was missing a tool underneath or whatever. It's a hassle. But regardless, we're driven, we got it done, and we got it out of the way. Obviously, we took everything back out underneath the car. We didn't install the rear axles, nor did we install the rear billet forks, because we're going to be doing the undercoating underneath the chassis. Once the underlining is all done and out of the way, all the all-wheel drive stuff will go back in for the final time. Hopefully, we'll have the hardware to secure the billet rear diff mount in place permanently, and then we'll work our way into mounting the viscous coupler and the drive shaft, or at least the back of the drive shaft, because I don't know if the front will fit since it came out of my CRX. I'm waiting for one new part to show up so we can assemble the long block to the transmission to get all of that back into the engine bay, which then we'll have the transfer case in place to align our viscous coupler and drive shaft and make sure it's nice and straight. Our deadline's approaching really quickly, guys, and I'm just trying my hardest to get some progress done on this car. And I think the last big major thing that we need to do when everything's all said and done is doing the exhaust system. If we are confirmed that the car is going to get towed to LA, I'm really not too worried about having the exhaust system on the car, but I'm still going to try to shoot to build the exhaust system before we take off. Anyways, guys, we're going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the installation of the new S1BUILT billet all-wheel drive diff mount for the EF specific. If you guys did, be sure to leave a thumbs up. Also, don't forget, if you guys are interested in anything S1BUILT, be sure to hit the link in the description below and use discount code STATIC for 10% off. The all-wheel drive diff mount should be available for the EF chassis on their website very soon. I know they're in production and they should be on their way, but stay posted on the Instagram stories because they always post updates every single day of what's been going on at the shop. Be sure to support your locals as well too, man. And if you guys want to stick around for the new long block going back into the car, man, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.